Hello, this is Mr. McLeod, and I'm going to be doing a little demo on how to make your clones fire. They could fire anything, but the idea is to make each individual clone be able to fire things from its location. So we're going to start by doing a little bit of setup and overview of what we have so far. So we have this player ship. It's just going to go to 0, 0 and sit there. It's not going to do anything interesting right now yet. The enemy ship is going to turn into a clone factory. So basically the original ship will just start out hidden. We'll go ahead and set some of the other initializations like the size. And what else? I think that's... oh, yeah, I guess we should switch costume to the enemy ship. Okay, so it has a bunch of costumes that we're not really going to use in this demo. Alright, so then basically it's going to start creating clones of itself. So let's say it makes about 10 clones. And we'll just make them pretty quickly for now. So let's see, here we go, create a clone of myself 10 times. So then this is where the magic happens. So we have, when I start as a clone, the clones are going to need to show, and we're going to have them go to random locations. So there is this nice little go to random position. However, I don't really want the clones to appear right on top of the player ship. So what I'm going to do is, if they are too close to the ship, so if the distance from them to the ship is less than a certain amount, then they will just move back a little bit away from the ship. So we'll say, okay, if the distance to player ship is less than 30, then if we have them point toward the ship, okay, so they're going to point toward the ship, then that means if they move a negative amount, that means they're going to be moving back away from the ship. So if they move back 30, then they're guaranteed to be at least 30 away from the ship. So that should be pretty good. Okay, and then we're going to start having them just constantly be pointing toward the ship. And if you were going to turn this into a real game, this is also right here would be where you'd probably put things like movement and any other kinds of blocks that you want, any kind of other behavior that you want from the enemies. We're not going to really focus on their other behavior right now. Because we're going to focus on their firing. So I showed you this just so you know you probably want this main loop here to be separate from the firing loop, because the firing loop is going to have a little delay. And so if you put the delay in the main forever loop, then the delay will delay the movement of the ship, and the ship won't be able to be cruising around smoothly. So we're going to add another when I start as a clone, and this is going to be the one that just keeps making us fire. So we'll just say forever, we're going to tell the laser where we are, and then we're going to fire, and then we're going to wait for a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to put the wait in here right now, and just to add a little bit of randomness, we're going to have them firing everywhere in between 0.1 and 0.5 5 seconds in between shots. So there'll be a little bit of randomness in how long they wait between shots. And then for the main shot, we're going to just go ahead and make a main block here called fire. Okay, so our movement block doesn't really do anything yet, but fire is going to do stuff. So inside of fire, you can see I have these plans, but I'm going to delete these and I will recreate them so you can see what we're doing here. So basically we're going to make a variable for all sprites so that the laser will be able to see this as well. Laser X, so this is basically going to tell the laser what X position should it go to. And another one, laser Y, so that's the Y position that the laser should go to. And we'll also make a direction one, so that way we can have the laser always shoot in whatever direction the enemy ship is in. So we're going to also set a direction here. Okay, so then all we have to do now is when we fire, we're going to set laser X to, and then if you go to motion up here, you'll see that there's X position, right? And then we're going to set laser Y to Y position, and then we can set direction to, going back to motion, down here at the bottom to direction. So now it's basically saved in these global variables the information about where should the laser go and what direction should it point. So then we can actually have the laser created by actually having this sprite create a clone of the enemy laser. So notice you can actually create clones of other sprites, not just of yourself. So if we do that, basically every time we fire, it's going to create a clone, and this information is going to be right there ready for the clone to read. Let's make sure we actually put our fire block in there. So forever it's going to just keep on firing, waiting, firing, waiting. Alright, so I think we're ready to go to the laser. So the laser is also essentially going to be a clone factory. The original will be. So it's just going to hide as soon as the flag is clicked. But instead of it creating clones, remember our enemy ship created the clones. So we don't even have to have any clone creation going on here. We just say when I start as a clone, I'm going to, well, first we need to show, and let's go ahead and also go to, so we need to go to the variables that we set here, right? So we need to go to laser X, laser Y, and then we just need to point in direction and point in the direction that we saved. So the variables are over here, but I'm going to just go ahead and delete them for now. Oh, there was this distance traveled. We can get rid of that. That had to do with shooting a certain amount of distance. We're actually going to use a different method for that. That's an alternative method. Okay, so we have go to laser X, go to laser and to laser Y, point in whatever direction we're supposed to point, and then we can just fire away. So 10 times, say, depending on how far you want to go. So if we did 10 times 10, we'd go 100. If we went 10 times 15, we go 150. And just to throw in something so that, you know, if we hit the ship, we could say, okay, if we hit the ship, we're also going to disappear. So we'll assume that hitting the player ship counts as hitting something. So if it hits the player ship, we'll delete the clone. Or if it gets to the 150 total steps, right, if it's gone through all 10 times, it will also delete this clone. We could also make it delete on the edge too, so let's throw that in there. So In this case, it probably won't ever happen since they're all going to be firing into the middle. But we'll just say if it hits touching the ship or touching the edge, either of those will cause it to delete the clone. Okay. So let's see, I think we got it here. So we were shooting lasers, and yep. Alright, let's try this. So if we hit the flag, they all appear and start blasting at the player. Hooray! So now we got our clones firing lasers, and you can imagine if we wanted them to be moving around, we could throw in some movement code in here. So, you know, like we could throw in some quick movement code here. So maybe, oh, don't put another forever there. Maybe so this is, remember, the movement is what do they do each tick. So let's say every tick they move a little bit, and then just to make sure they don't all just like charge the player, maybe we should make them every once in a while like turn a little bit. So let's say turn, let's see, some random amount, negative 30 to 30. See, they're still going to kind of pile onto the player. We probably want to, the problem is they're all shooting at the player, so we could just make them not point at the player. Then they're just going around firing everywhere. That's kind of funny. Ha. Okay, so anyway, you can see the main goal here was just to have them be wandering around. We could probably throw in if on edge mounts. That'll make it a little more interesting. Yay, they're rolling around firing everywhere. That's pretty good. Okay, so hopefully you can add something like this into your game, or maybe this solves a problem that you've been trying to solve in your game. But whatever the case, enjoy!